Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Craig Ben, a.k.a. Cash Keg, back with my buddy Zach. DraftKings Week 0, man. How you doing, Zach?
What's going on, man?
Oh, ready to win some money, man. Ready to win some money. Are you playing a lot of cash this week? You playing a lot of tournaments? Like, how are you approaching this week? We're going to talk about DraftKings main slate here. We got it pulled up. Starts at 7 p.m. They don't have the early games here. FanDuel has early ones. We're only going to talk DraftKings right here because, we don't want to guess what Notre Dame running back's going to go off. And DraftKings got the $50K contest, man. You got to jump in that thing.
We know which Notre Dame running back's going to go off. We don't want to guess which Navy quarterback's going to play.
There we go. But yeah, cash GPPs. What are you doing?
First week 0, week 1, especially week 0 with a smaller slate. I play a little bit of cash, kind of go light, play more GPPs. It's just we don't know what these teams are going to do. Especially there's a couple games that the lower scoring games are the ones that are close. The higher scoring games have a bigger spread. It's a lot of guessing, a lot of figuring it out. So for me, it's more of a GPP week. I am more cash minded, which makes it tough, but I think it's a GPP week for sure.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk both. We'll start with the cash kind of lineup construction. That's what we'll do. If you got any questions, just post them in here. We'll do our best to answer. Projections are up on the site for DraftKings and FanDuel over at dailyedgesports.com. So if you want access to those, if you want Zachariah's core plays, cash plays stuff, those are all up as well. But again, any questions you guys have, drop them in there. We'll do our best to answer. And but let's start with cash construction. And I mean, this is, I mean, you're just throwing him in there like it's not. He should be pre-built. I mean, especially with the salaries that are in with this thing. You can make the case in tournaments to fade him, but even single entry, I'd have a hard time stomaching fading him. I really would. Just the floor that he has with the ceiling, I don't see how you do it. If you're new to college football and building any of these, the great thing. I wish NFL would do this. I wish they would do it. DraftKings NFL, where instead of playing that stupid ass defense down at the bottom, you can throw 2 quarterbacks in here. So. Who's the second quarterback that you're going to go with in cash that you think that you're going to play?
There's a couple I'm looking at. Bachmeier for the salary savings if you really want to pay up for some of these other USC guys. I think there's several that are projected close to each other. Bachmeier I really like just the situation. This is a team that is quick-paced. They're playing a team that's quick-paced. Last year they threw the ball 56% of the time, which was top 25 in the country. Bachmeier last year they didn't have a starting quarterback really. They had 2, so that was a rotation. Now they get this transfer who threw for 3,000 yards a couple of years ago, and then kind of last year was just a weird situation at Boise State.
Had injuries for a while last couple of years too, man. And you can't really look at that with the offense and everything else. And this offense, I'm excited to see what he can do. But yeah, like you said, I think we throw him down there just at that price. I think he's probably going to be pretty popular at that price, but there's a lot of different ways you can go in tournaments where you don't have to throw him in there. Or if, like you said, if you're going to fade Williams in tournaments and decide what you're going to go there. But I think a majority of the lineups are, cash are 100% going to have Williams, and probably a lot of them are going to have Bachmeier. And that if you want to get different in cash, I think there's other ways you can go. I don't think you're pigeonholed.
Oh, for sure. I think one thing we probably won't talk about as much here, just because we're doing straight cash and GPPs, a lot of single entries, 3 maxes, things like that, you're going to play off of these, especially in college football, because a lot of times in college football, the chalk hits. Everybody knows what's good. Everybody knows when you have, a top quarterback. When you had Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, that he was going to go off every week. It's just what happened every week. So a lot of time the chalk does hit, so you have to kind of watch that. But you got to get different places. That being said, I think Bachmeier on this slate is an easy to plug in. The only other one I might look at is Diego Pavia, just because he has that rushing upside, which Bachmeier doesn't have. Because that's the other thing I really like to look for on a second quarterback is that dual threat ability. But this is a situation where I'm probably going to be playing receivers with Bachmeier, so I don't worry about it as much.
Right, and it's generally on the main slates, when we have bigger slates like that, you can generally find a quarterback in this 5 to 6K range. It's dual threat. and they're just usually easy plug and plays. But yeah, makes it for an interesting one. I think the other place you're going to start your cash games, I mean, it's obvious. Everyone's going to have him, and it's Shepard, man, at 5K.
Lock him in.
Yeah, and you can make the case to lock him in even in tournaments if you wanted to. He's going to be super high owned, so it's one of those things where you're not going to get massively over the field if you're in the tournaments, but he's like, you could say Williams and Shepard are going to be so high owned that you either like think about locking him in to get over the field, or you just completely fade him and hope something happens, and then you're just lapping the field. But I have a lot easier time to do that on a $9,900 quarterback than I do a 5K receiver. Sometimes we'll get those like 3K receivers where like somehow injuries happen or something, and you can just lock them in. Those I love, or 3,200.
Or this, they forget about, like, I don't understand how Will Shepard on any slate is 5K, much less I've been looking around the industry. He is the top top wide receiver on maybe half of the projections out there, and he's top 3 to 5 on every one. And he's the number 3 receiver on their own team.
He should be in the 7K. He should be like 7,200, I think. 72 to 7,400 is probably where he should be priced.
Yeah, for sure. He's up there with Singer and Williams easily.
Oh, easily. And so, yeah, having that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, again, it's one of those things. He's going to be extremely high owned. Cash games, you just throw him in there and move on. Tournaments, I think he's going to – I mean, if that $15 tournament, what do you think he's owned? 56, 60%, something like that?
Oh, yeah, the top tournament.
It wouldn't surprise me if he's 70%, honestly.
I mean, I think a lot of the big – I've reading around articles, reading around everywhere. There's a lot of people that say never lock in a player that are saying lock in Will Shepard this week.
Right.
I mean, it's just you want to get ahead of the game on him. Hawaii is not very good, and this is a week where you plug him in because then you can pay up and get different at the expensive places instead of getting different at the cheap places.
Right. So, yeah, we throw him in there. Where's the next spot you're kind of looking at? I mean, if you want to look at running back.
For a cash game, running back, go down to you can see right there that if you look at that out tag right there, Crosby, if you scroll up a little bit more, that out tag right there is what we're actually looking at. So Crosby right there is out. He's the starting running back, big dog at Louisiana Tech. With him being out this week, and there are a few other injuries in that back room. Tyree Shelton, I believe is his name, would actually be the third string guy, but the backup was Thornton. Jarvis Thornton. This is a game I do think they're going to air it out a little bit more, which is one reason I like Bachmeier. But Florida International was like bottom. They were definitely bottom third. I believe they were even lower than that against the run. They're also bottom like 20 against the pass. They're just not a good defense. And getting him at 5,400, you're going to get a decent workload. I generally hate stacking a quarterback and a running back in cash, but this is a slate where you'll see these running backs. We'll talk about it. There's not a ton of options that are going to give you guaranteed production at running back, and he's one that should at least get carries.
Yeah, on a 5-game slate, when you have guys that are in the 5K range, it doesn't bother me so much. You can make the case though for Williams and they're the running backs on that team, that are 78, 7,400. If you wanted to make a rule where you're not stacking them together, I can see that, because on a 5-game slate though, maybe I don't make as many rules I normally would. But if this is a normal like 13-game slate on a Saturday, I definitely would make that rule. Like, I would not want those guys together at all, because the chance of those guys hitting their ceiling at the price point, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, and when we get to GPPs in a little bit, I'll talk. I mean, one thing I kind of like on this slate is stacking like Williams with the running back, just because a lot of people will stay away from it, and you're going to have to figure out ways to get different on the slate, because a lot of people are going to be playing the same plays.
Yeah, they're pretty in your face and obvious. Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be the start of almost everyone's cash lineup, to be honest with you. And if you even just want to take out Bachmeier, those three, I can't see how people are not starting at that point. And I think, if you're going to the next play in wide receiver, where are you looking to throw in?
I'm going with one of the two top Louisiana Tech receivers. So Smoke Harris and Cyrus Allen are the two top guys. Some reports out of camp, Smoke Harris was the top guy last year, had 101 targets. They actually lost their number 2 receiver who had 99 targets, so there's a ton up for grabs. Cyrus Allen down there at 5,700, I believe.
Yep.
He's their big play target. He goes deep a lot. That being said, kind of the reports out of camp or the thinking is that Mitchell's going to be the underneath guy. He's going to lead the team in targets, receptions, maybe yardage. Cyrus Allen's going to lead the team in touchdowns. So he's going to be the big red zone threat, be the deep play guy. Either one of those, I would say I like the salary savings with Allen. It kind of seems like a 50-50 split right now, which one you want to go with.
Right.
I don't think you're necessarily going to need to save a ton of salary at the end of this, but I like him. That's kind of the next place I'm looking.
Yeah, I do like to throw him in there. I mean, at that price point. But I'm with you. I think you got to throw one of them in there. But I do like the savings there. One thing I like to do too is like if you're building something like this, and you're building a cash lineup on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and just a toss up. Sometimes I'll throw the other guy, depending on price point, on FanDuel and just kind of split them that way.
Yeah, Cyrus Allen is really. I mean, FanDuel. While we're talking about it, for people that haven't played a ton, FanDuel's half point PPR, whereas DraftKings is full point PPR. So for me, I'll take a guy that's going to be a deep threat, but going to be a bigger touchdown threat any day, just because of 8 catches for 88 yards is only getting you 12 points on DraftKings, where it's going to get you 16 points here, or on FanDuel, excuse me, where it's going to get you 16 points here. So that touchdown means a lot more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, we have this is what's crazy about this slate. I mean, we throw these guys in here. We got $6K left to fill out the last 3 spots here.
Well, not just that. You go and you look at the top end. In cash, personally, I'm avoiding the USC receivers. There's going to be I bet there's 9 to 10 of them with a catch in this game. Right. And it wouldn't surprise me if, one guy might get 5 catches on 6 targets or something, but no one's going to, get a ton of volume. So if you take out those USC guys there, if you look under 6K, there's not a ton left.
Right.
So you're going to be able to play whoever you want.
And that's the thing we got to mention in college football is like, it's not, if you play a lot of NFL, it's not the same, man. Like there's teams that they'll lock on guys and 15 targets a game, and that nobody else is getting anything. It's just, was it last year with Rashid Rice? Or was it last year? Yeah, I mean,
it was 2 years ago, but yeah.
2 years ago, yeah. And it's just like, he was going to get just a ton of targets. Just an example of some of those teams that just throw the ball to the same guy over and over and over. So yeah, I mean, 6K. Where would you go next year if we're building out this cash?
Probably to go back to running back. Most big slates on DraftKings where you have that flex spot, I like to go 3 running backs. This one, it's hard to because there are so many committees. Bangura is the most solid choice here. Just if you go look at his attempts, you go through there, he's getting volume. It's not the best matchup for him. I don't think it's the worst matchup. I don't think San Diego State's what they used to be. But if you go through there, the last 6-7 weeks of the season, he's getting 20 plus carries a game. He's getting involved in the passing game, which I love. And he's getting touchdowns. So if he's going to get that goal line work, he's going to get 20 carries. Even if he gets 15 carries, at least you know what you're getting. It's a little expensive for it. I wish he was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to go value somewhere, I think, anyways. So I don't mind that at all. The other place I really like, I believe his name is Keaton Mitchell over for 5,900 on FIU. This FIU team's a team that throws it a lot too. Chris Mitchell, excuse me. Throws it a lot too. They lost a lot of their top production at wide receiver, so he's going to be their deep threat this year. To me, I kind of like their quarterback in GPPs just to get different. And I think this game has sneaky potential to shoot out and play to the high 60s. Just because it's that first game of the season, defenses are generally in front here, but you have a better quarterback for Louisiana Tech. You have the same offenses on both teams as last year. All the coaching staffs are coming back. These are conference foes, so they do play against each other. It is an important game there. So, yeah, he's a guy I kind of like coming back with this Louisiana Tech FIU game. It's a game I really want to target. And yeah, you put him in there, and then you have about 5K to work with.
Well, if you say you didn't go and wanted to spend 7K in your second running back, the other ways I was building things around, because you're either going one way or the other. You're spending up and getting cheap, or what about come down here and take Hines, man, at 4,700?
He's going to be chalky as well. I do like him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Cash is cheap, and he's going to be chalky.
And that's kind of the last place I kind of was looking at for that flex spot was around 5K. He's my favorite sub 5K player here.
Yeah, because it's just if you throw those 3 running backs in, your last spot you're at 6,300 for a wide receiver. So there's a lot of ways you can go, and I can see this being an extremely popular build this route. But if you didn't run him and you still got almost 6,800 between 2 spots,
when you have Rice there, might get a little bit chalky because he fits that build so well as USC wide receiver on the outside, and they do have a few less outside wide receivers this year. So at least there's not as much rotation. I think he actually leaves you 100 over. But I think, Chris Mitchell right there, he's in that game that has a little bit closer spread, which I like. It's a conference game, so they're going to keep their starters in. It's got a nicer total than some of these games that are at 45.
And that might be your 1v1, right? Because and people too, they'll be like, well, yeah, let's go Rice because you're going to get your combination with your quarterback, and your correlation there. And so, I mean, we could. I think that's pretty just clear cut on a slate like this. It's pretty clear cut. I don't think we got to beat a dead horse on this. What did we say if we just fade Williams completely in a tournament? Like, what would your lineup look if you decided to go that route? Like, I'm still leaving Shepard in, and I'm gonna leave Thornton in this lineup.
So, going over to GPPs. I think that's your big kind of decision. I think you either fade Caleb Williams, or you go, almost lock him in. You might as well, go very heavy. If I take him out here, I still want probably Bachmeier because I think Bachmeier is going to be the second most popular quarterback, and I think he's to me he is has the second highest ceiling and a nice floor on this. I don't care about his price; it has nothing to do with his price. It's just I like him as a quarterback. If you're fading Williams, I want to go with one of the 2 running backs, USC running backs on there.
Right.
And honestly, if you're playing a ton of lineups, I don't mind putting both of them in a few lineups. If you're playing 100 lineups, I don't mind going 5% with both
of them.
If they're going to rotate in and out, and Caleb Williams is going to have 2 touchdowns, and they're going to have 3 combined, you still have everything's so cheap on this slate.
Right.
I mean, you still have
look at that. You wouldn't do that, but yeah.
No. On this slate, you need to get different on this slate. So a lot of people are going to be itching to play college football. They're going to find the chalk. There's a ton of articles out there that are going to get the chalk. Diego Pavia, again, probably my second favorite quarterback. I do think he'll be a decent bit chalky. He's getting talked about a lot of places. But again, I don't mind it. I think he's a guy that you can put down there. I think if you want to start getting different, we were talking about before we started, Cordero at San Jose State. He's a guy, dual threat guy. Again, it's an interesting matchup because last year USC's defense was just awful.
Right.
I mean, they were just awful. So if he can break a few runs, and then get, he could be at 150 yards, with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and then they bring in their 4th team, defense at USC because they're up by 50, and he could, go for 150 yards in the last 20 minutes of the game in garbage time and get a 300-yard bonus. So he's a guy that I could see. Yeah, I mean that's he's a guy, and it's a decent team. It's not anywhere on the caliber of USC, but that's a decent football team for a group of 5 Mountain West team.
And what are your thoughts on Rourke here? Because again, coming back,
I have him written up on my sheet. I think he's a decent GPP play. He's a value play. I know he's right there, just a little bit cheaper than Bachmeier, but to me, Bachmeier is more of a cash, all format. Yeah, because
that's the thing. If you even want to try to get a little bit different, Rourke's going to be less owned than Bachmeier, and you get him for a little cheaper. So it's like, even if
it's a good pivot,
a great pivot, and if you want to even start, if you want to start your lineups with Rourke and Bachmeier, I mean, you can play anybody, and that's even with Lloyd in there. You can play basically whoever you want.
My biggest problem with I'm going to have a decent amount of Rourke. My biggest problem there, the total is so low there. Both teams play pretty slow, and one thing we have to watch this year, we talked about it in one of our videos the other day. I actually do think this is a year that could slow teams. I don't think are going to be as hurt by it, but clock doesn't stop anymore after first downs. which some teams, I've heard anywhere from 2 to 5 points off the total that could cut off, which is 8%, 10% of the scores. So we need to watch that. I kind of want to keep an eye on it the first couple of weeks, see how it affects DFS purposes.
Right.
I think these big conferences, these nicely paid SEC officials, they're pretty efficient. They're not wasting time to get that clock started again once the ball's reset. It's 3 to 4 seconds to play. But you go down to these Sunbelt guys that are working down at the car dealership and then come down and
Right.
and they're officiating. Right. It's going to take it might take 8 to 10 seconds a first down, which there's 40 first downs in the game. That's 400 seconds. That's a decent chunk of time.
Yeah, it definitely eats it up, and that makes a great point. Just depending on stuff like that, and it'll be interesting. Yeah, this first week and just kind of seeing how it, how all that works out, because again, it's new this year, and it'll be definitely interesting to see. And if you got, some of the teams that maybe take shots down the field more and get first downs, again, take them longer to go spot it and all that crap, or the teams that are just running it down their throat, it's probably not going to take quite as long. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, man. But this slate is just so kind of cut and dry. It's like I'm just debating how much I wanted to play, because it's like
my biggest places. Like, I think you can look at there's like 6 or 7 quarterbacks you can really look at.
Right.
If you're looking at them, going through the list, the main ones, Pavia. A different place you can get different is going with some Vandy stacks. If you think that Shepard's going to have a big game, and Hawaii was a lot better team after a bye last year. I think they had their last 6 games, they covered 5 of them, and they average covering in those games by 7 points or something. So they were a much better team the second half of the year. That being said, they're still not a great team. So there could be a big last year. What was their quarterback's name last year that started the season? He had a huge game that day because he ran for 150 yards.
That'll definitely add up.
Yep. Well, but Swan right there, they want to throw it more this year. Swan's a decent quarterback. He just throws a ton of interceptions.
Right.
And if he tightens that up against the bad, he's a guy that might not go. He's way too expensive for what he should be. So that's a stack that you go Will Shepard and one of the other 2 wide receivers. I also think some of these Hawaii guys, some of these cheap Hawaii guys are a way to get different. They're going to be sub 10% owned. You can go Nick Nash was a converted quarterback into a wide receiver for San Jose State. He's a guy that's going to be sub 5% owned, as well as Charles Ross, who was there last year. Their top receiver seems to be back, Lockhart, but he's been out of camp with some kind of hand wrist injury. He's had a cast on, so they might have gotten more work with those cheaper guys. Just something like that. You're hoping for garbage time,
Yeah, it can be all the difference in the world.
Game.
Just one long catch, man. You just never know. But I guess it's a tough slate because there's so many obvious plays. But again, like you said, it's also week 0, man, and a lot of things that we and everybody else think we know is going to play out.
Well, those depth charts aren't always accurate, as they say. Those, some teams are going to play their starters for one play, and then that starter is going to sit on the bench for 3 quarters. Right. And
we'll see what happens, man. But I mean, I think it's a good enough rundown on things. Again, we got more plays up if they want to check out the GPP plays and stuff like that. But again, cash is pretty straightforward to how we're going to go with things, and I think the biggest decision on the slate is what you're doing with Caleb Williams and what you're going to do with Will Shepard, because they're just going to be so high owned. In cash, you just play them, and tournaments, you're either going all in on them, in my opinion, or, I mean, maybe not Williams if you want to just kind of go at the field. But if he does put up a spectacular game, the rest of those lineups are probably going to be burnt.
For sure. One thing for people that haven't played college football DFS, if you're new, I know there's some people that haven't. News is king. It's kind of like the old NBA. News is king. A lot of these teams don't have good beat reporters. A lot of these teams, none of the teams have rules where they have to report injuries or stuff. I actually saw a news article today that they might change that in the Big Ten, which is amazing.
That would be amazing.
Be around. If you're gonna enter 150 lineups in one of these expensive contests, be around for news and be ready to change your entire slate with 5 minutes to go, because there are times where that lock of locks is scratched and didn't even get on the plane, and no one knows until they come out for the national anthem.
Yep. That's true.
So just we'll be around. We'll be in Discord. So if you have any questions, be sure to hit us up.
Definitely, man. We'll do our best to get that news out if we do see something. But yeah, it's bound to happen. I mean, it happens every year. So hopefully, as sports gambling gets more prevalent across America, and the states, more states continue to take it on, they'll do things like what you're talking about with hopefully the Big Ten, where they'll actually have news and do it. That would help things out. But you got anything? You got anything else, Zach?
I think that's it. Good luck this week. Next week is Christmas. There's 5 days in a row of amazing football. There's going to be huge slates all the time. So make sure you're getting in. Make sure you're joining us. We're going to have. It's a very, very tiresome week for Craig and I next week, but it's a lot of fun.
It'll be fun though. It'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll help you win a little bit of money and enjoy it, man. College football is a lot of fun, and look forward to it. If you're going to watch that Notre Dame game, man, just know what things played out in Ireland, man. So it should be a lot of fun to watch. But with that, for Zach, myself, we'll see you on the flip side. Deuces.